Hello, welcome to another episode of On the Waterfront here on Sparks 1524. I'm Nathaniel Miller. Haven't had this particular ball cap on my head in about 20 something years. My first command was Fleet Air Reconnaissance Squadron 2, or VQ2, forward deployed in Rota, Spain. When I first joined the Navy, I did not know what to do. This was long before I wound up in photography, F-14 maintenance, instruction, etc. I did know, however, that no matter what the organization, there's administration everywhere. Navy, Army, Air Force, corporate America, wherever. So I became a yeoman, which is a Navy admin clerk. I figured if I loved it, it's a great career, stick with it. If it's not my cup of tea, it's still a great career starting move because it'll let me look around the entire Navy, and it worked. I ended up in the hangar, the administrative spaces of the hangar, but the VQ2 hangar at Naval Station Rota, Spain. Now, every base, DOD-wide, doesn't matter the branch of service, every base has a morale, welfare, and recreation department. I took advantage of the MWR tours all around Europe. I got plenty of sea stories coming from that, but we're coming up on Thanksgiving tomorrow. So I thought I would share one of the greatest Thanksgivings I ever had in my adult life. Back in 1999, Thanksgiving in jolly old England. I had a friend actually in London. Her name was Christine, and we had gone to school together at Florida State University. Christine was now working at the Florida State University London Study Center. We flew up on Wednesday, November 24th, and the next day was Thanksgiving Day. I hooked up with Christine and her students at the London Study Center, which was great because traveling there from my hotel was the first time I ever got to take the London Underground. Christine had arranged a tour of Canterbury. Wonderful historical town. And I do go into more on Canterbury and Canterbury Cathedral in my written column, which is on my blog. That's linked below in the description. This is November 99. Just 1 month earlier, in October 99, I had gone through a set of events that led me to decide to apply for conversion from yeoman to photographer's mate, the old Navy rate for photographers. So going to London now is the first time I was taking a camera with me after deciding to make this career move, and I've been starting to research photography on the internet. Nothing I shot in London is award-winning or holds up to the standard I have now, 25 years later at 51 years old. But looking back for a guy who was doing research on the nascent Yahoo and Google sites on the internet with no one to teach him, I am actually impressed by what I was able to pull off because I, pardon the pun, was shooting blind. Canterbury Cathedral, I've seen a lot of history, but some of the architecture was amazing. One of the halls in there, the ceiling was covered in the most ornately carved and painted petrified wood. It was just a breathtaking chamber to be in, looking up at all this carved petrified wood. Another shot I did get in the cathedral that I really loved was looking straight up the bottom of the Bell Harry Tower, which is the cathedral's main bell tower. Now, of course, I'm not seeing all the way to the top because the tower is built in stories, but it was amazing to sit there because this part of the tower was still maybe 100 feet, 200 feet above us. It was just breathtaking. Canterbury itself, wonderful old town. Christine and I tooled around for a little bit, had lunch at the Bell and Crown. I tell you a little story about that in my written column. Got to see a house where Charles Dickens spent a great deal of time, and I'm not sure what brought home to me in Canterbury the fact that, oh my God, I'm over here in England more. It's a photo finish whether it was Canterbury Cathedral or this house where Charles Dickens stayed. Christine had to work the next day, which is now Friday. So I just had a map, had my camera, 2 working feet, and the underground. Now, my photography is also very limited, not just in the skill set I had at the time, but in the number of images I have. At this point in time, in late 1999, digital was still this, digital. NASA must be using that kind of stuff. 20 years later, look back and see how fast we made the shift from film to digital photography. It's amazing, but at 99, we didn't know that was coming or how fast. So you still had to carry packs and rolls of film that you had to buy, then you had to pay for all that to be developed. Also, I made a very early mistake when I was scanning it in. A long time ago, I had gotten the images developed with a matte finish instead of a gloss finish. So later, when I used an optical scanner to scan them in, my skill set there was also low because it all was just starting out. And the images, most of them didn't scan in terribly sharp because that matte finish blurred them. And I didn't realize that at the time. And like many people, a lot of my early imagery, as far as the still photos, the prints, and the negatives, went in the trash after I scanned them, because that was another part of the rush to this digital. Everything will scan it digitally, don't need the physical media. Of course, we all know now that was kind of a dumb idea, but you live and learn. Took that fancy London Underground down to the River Thames. What American goes to London and does not go to the famous River Thames? And there was a ship I had noticed on the river that I didn't think much of. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Kind of looked like a warship, but didn't, it's way down there. So I'm walking along the river, and good grief, it's a Royal Navy warship moored in the middle of London. No base or anything. This is the HMS Belfast, one of the only big gun cruisers preserved as a museum ship in all of Europe from World War II. Europe was decimated. The idea of saving a warship for posterity was kind of low on the list of priorities to trying to rebuild their civilization. But the Belfast is a small ship. She's definitely worth the time, and she's definitely somewhere you should go. I had to walk across the Tower Bridge, the first ever example in the world of a suspension and bascule bridge all in one. Suspension bridge, we all know what that is. A bascule bridge is your traditional drawbridge where you have the two leaves. They're called bascules together, and when the drawbridge opens, they lift up and come down. That's called a bascule bridge. Tower Bridge is the first example ever of someone building a bascule bridge that's also a suspension bridge. The walkways between the two towers were closed to pedestrian when I was there. Many years later, they've actually reopened, but I still got to walk the Tower Bridge. And again, remember, this is early days photography, so what I would shoot now and what I could produce now compared to what I produced then, very different worlds, but that was almost 25 years ago now, before I went to photo school. London is the site of the first and probably greatest lunkheaded, boneheaded stunt I ever pulled as a tourist. Cross the Tower Bridge. I'm on the grounds of the Tower of London, photographing and experimenting with like shooting the tower through, tree branches, things I'd never done before, but I'd read about on the internet as I researched. So I'm experimenting. And I never went into the tower. I was at the Tower of London and I did not go inside it. Like I said, a lunkheaded move, but I'll have to go back and see that someday. Caught up with Christine that night because I said she'd been working that day. And we decided to head over to the Soho district, which is where which is the big entertainment venue. It's over in the West End. It used to be a place where the aristocracy lived, and it's evolved into basically London's Broadway. Had a great dinner at an outdoor restaurant. I cannot remember the name of the restaurant, but it was awesome. And then Christine said, well, let's go try and catch a show. We both decided, let's go see Phantom of the Opera because it was playing with Michael Crawford playing the Phantom. Sold out, even standing room only. Damn it. Well, we looked around and there was another show that had standing room available. So like, screw it. I don't care if I'm going to stand for 3 hours. Let's go see this thing. Disney's Beauty and the Beast. She and I stood in the balcony for 3 hours. And it was totally, completely worth every minute. It was a magnificent production. And we were so jazzed up after that when we leave the theater about, it was about 10:30 or 11, we were hungry again. We were excited. We didn't want to go back and, just chill, her go back to her apartment and me go back to, or excuse me, this is London. Her go back to her flat and me go back to the hotel. So we had a second dinner talking about the play, and it was a magnificent night. That was quite a Thanksgiving. Things I remember seeing and that I didn't photograph because, again, I was just starting to think in terms of not just being kind of a tourist shutterbug, having fun, but documenting things and creating a visual diary for myself of my life. I didn't photograph the "look that way" idiot signs. Well, they didn't say idiot, but in London, most of the streets, if you look down, they have the words and an arrow painted, "Look left." In America, we look left, we look right, and we go because we drive on the right side of the street. London, they do it the other way. They drive on the left side of the street, so they have actually signs to tell tourists like me which way to look. Most ones I noticed said look left, but sometimes you get to a street and the way you approach the street, they're saying look right because you've got to look in different directions than what we're used to in the States and parts of the world that you drive on the right side of the street. Never photographed one of those signs, and I wish I had. It was really funny. Did not have a chance to visit Buckingham Palace. It was closed to tours at that time. And I did get a good shot, well, what I thought was a good shot of it through those magnificent gates. And when I got the film developed, the focus was, shall we say, less than ideal. So we flew back to Rhoda and went on with life. But that was a Thanksgiving to remember. Thanksgiving in jolly old England. It was a whirlwind tour. It was probably, let's see, of all the tours I've been on up to that point, that was the first one where I did wander out into a major city by myself, just trusting my own instincts and my feet and the local subway system. London Underground, at least back in '99, was incredibly easy to use. It was wonderful. It also was a moment of transition for me because I had just decided 30 days earlier to go into professional photography and had just started learning this stuff off the internet and teaching myself. And one of the things I do look back on is how skillful the photos I took actually were for a young sailor, basically a big old kid. I mean, I was 27, 26, 27, 29, 27, excuse me. But I was still a big old kid. I'm a classic late bloomer. So for a big old kid who's he is in the middle of his first time overseas, teaching myself photography off this internet thing that was coming around and this Yahoo search engine and something called Google. Never heard of those before, right? I'm impressed with what I pulled out. My ability to grasp the rules of composition, of lighting, of the direction of motion in films, I actually already had all of those in place. All the foundations, things I need to work on, like low light photography with no flash, stuff like that. Those are skills, yes, they need to come, but the concepts behind them, I realized looking back, I already had. I just need somebody to help me execute or develop the execution. So it was quite a memorable Thanksgiving and one I'm very thankful for. I got to see England. I got to see one of the greatest stage plays I've ever seen. I shouldn't say stage play. I mean, it's a full-on musical production. My God, it was amazing. So that was my Thanksgiving in London, England, back in 1999. It's quite an adventure. And this is the first time I'm wearing this particular ball cap in like 25 years. It's ever since I left VQ2, this cap's been on my wall, the beginning of a collection of ball caps of all my commands. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. This is a time to be thankful for what we have. And we do have a lot to be thankful for. So if you have family to spend it with, I hope you have a good time. If you are alone and don't have family or friends around, I hope you're able to find somebody or someplace to go where you can still enjoy a little of the festivities. Till we meet again here on Sparks 1524, have a happy Thanksgiving, and remember, always go and do great things.